Let me paint you a picture, and you tell me if this sounds familiar. It's Tuesday evening. You had a completely normal conversation with a coworker about 6 hours ago. It went fine. There were no explosions, no insults, no dramatic walkouts. You said words, they said words, everybody smiled, everybody left. And yet, here you are at 9:47 p.m., microwaving leftover pasta, and your brain is doing a full forensic analysis of the entire interaction. Why did they pause before saying no problem? Was that pause loaded? Did I use the word actually too aggressively? When I said, have a good one, did it sound sarcastic? Should I have said you too instead? And now you're standing in your kitchen, pasta rotating ominously behind you, running diagnostic tests on a 15-second exchange about a spreadsheet. And if this is you, if your brain treats every conversation like it's evidence in a courtroom trial, I need you to listen very carefully, because what science is now saying about your particular brand of mental gymnastics is going to completely rewrite the story you've been telling yourself. You are not paranoid. You are not socially anxious. You are not overthinking. What you actually have is something psychologists call a rare cognitive trait, and when you understand what it is, you're going to stop apologizing for your brain and start respecting it. Because as it turns out, the thing you've been beating yourself up for might actually be one of the most advanced forms of intelligence a human can possess. So let's get into it. Let me start by saying what you probably needed to hear about 15 years ago. The fact that you replay conversations in your head is not a malfunction. In fact, researchers studying cognitive processing have identified that people who habitually re-examine conversations tend to demonstrate significantly higher levels of something called verbal linguistic intelligence, combined with enhanced social-emotional cognition, which is a long, fancy way of saying your brain is processing language and interpersonal data at a much higher resolution than most people's brains are capable of. You're not broken. You're not weird. You're just running premium software in a world full of basic plans. And today we're going to break down in 5 specific scientifically backed points exactly what's happening in that beautiful, overactive brain of yours. Number 1. You have what's known in cognitive science as high linguistic sensitivity. This is the ability to detect subtle shifts in word choice, tone, pacing, and phrasing that most people simply don't register. When someone says sure versus yeah, sure versus yeah, sure, most brains process all 3 as the same answer. Your brain hears 3 entirely different messages, each with its own emotional temperature and subtext. This is because your auditory cortex and your language processing regions, particularly Broca's area and Wernicke's area, have developed unusually strong connections with your limbic system, which is the emotional center of your brain. In other words, language for you is not just information. It's emotion wrapped in syllables. So when you replay a conversation later, you're not torturing yourself. You're essentially decoding a rich, layered audio file that your brain recorded in high fidelity. Most people are listening to conversations in MP3. You're listening in studio-grade lossless audio. The replay isn't obsession. It's interpretation. Number 2. You likely possess a trait psychologists call hypermentalizing. And yes, it's as impressive as it sounds. Mentalizing is the fancy term for your ability to understand what other people are thinking and feeling. It's the cognitive skill that separates humans from most other animals, and it's processed mainly in a brain region called the temporoparietal junction. Most people have average mentalizing skills. They pick up on the obvious signals. You, on the other hand, are running hypermentalizing, which means your brain is simultaneously tracking what someone said, what they meant, what they didn't say, what they probably wanted to say, how they were feeling about saying it, and how they expected you to respond. You're essentially running 5 conversations at once inside your own head during every real conversation. And after the interaction ends, your brain keeps running the simulation because it has so much data to process. Now here's the part that's going to surprise you. Studies have shown that people high in mentalizing skills tend to be exceptional therapists, negotiators, writers, teachers, and leaders. You're not overthinking. You're operating at a cognitive level that most people literally cannot access. Your psychology is playing 4D chess while everyone else is playing checkers with half the pieces missing. Number 3. There's a specific neurological reason you replay conversations specifically, and it's tied to something called rumination reflection theory. Researchers distinguish between two types of post-event thinking. Rumination is the sticky, negative loop that just keeps repeating without going anywhere. Reflection, on the other hand, is analytical, curious, and future-oriented. Most people assume that if you're replaying a conversation, you're ruminating. But here's the thing. The majority of deep thinkers are actually reflecting, even if it feels uncomfortable. You're not just spinning in circles. You're analyzing patterns. You're updating your models of other people. You're learning communication strategies. You're refining how you want to show up next time. This process activates the prefrontal cortex, which is the decision-making, strategy-forming region of your brain. Rumination activates fear-based regions. Reflection activates growth regions. And research shows that people who engage in reflection, even when it feels uncomfortable, end up developing stronger interpersonal skills over their lifetime, better communication abilities, and a more refined sense of self. It's like everyone else is watching life in 480p and you're stuck with an 8K IMAX experience of every social interaction. Yes, it's intense. But it's also why you understand people on a level others never will. Number 4. You probably have a very active default mode network, which is a network of brain regions that light up when you're not focused on a specific task. This is the network responsible for self-referential thinking, autobiographical memory, and mental time travel. When you're in the shower thinking about that conversation from 8 hours ago, your default mode network is in overdrive. And here's why this matters. People with highly active default mode networks are scientifically linked to higher creativity, stronger problem-solving abilities, and deeper insight generation. That's right. The same network that's making you replay conversations is the network that generates your best ideas, your most profound realizations, and your most creative breakthroughs. It's no coincidence that some of the greatest writers, scientists, and inventors in history were notorious overthinkers who were obsessed with analyzing human behavior. Your brain isn't stuck in the past. It's using past conversations as raw material for future intelligence. So the next time you catch yourself replaying a weird exchange, try this reframe. Instead of thinking, "Why can't I just let this go?" try thinking, "My brain is mining this for patterns." Because that's what's actually happening. You're not haunted. You're doing cognitive archaeology. Number 5, and this one is going to reframe everything. The specific rare cognitive trait that scientists are now studying in people who habitually replay conversations is called metacognitive awareness. Metacognition is literally thinking about thinking. It's your ability to observe your own mental processes, evaluate them, and adjust them over time. And here's the wild part. Research shows that only about 10 to 15% of people have highly developed metacognitive awareness. That means the vast majority of humans walk around thinking their thoughts without ever observing them, evaluating them, or refining them. They just react. You don't. You analyze. You evaluate. You ask yourself, was that the best way to handle that? Or what did I miss? Or how could I have communicated that better? This is a trait that shows up in high-performing executives, experienced psychologists, elite athletes, and master artists. It's the trait that allows people to grow, adapt, and become more emotionally intelligent over time. Most people are running on autopilot. You're flying the plane manually with full awareness of the instruments. It feels exhausting sometimes, but it also means you're one of the relatively few people who can actually pilot their own psychology with intention. You're not overthinking. You're practicing one of the rarest and most valuable skills in human cognition. So here's where I want you to land tonight. The next time you find yourself at 9:47 p.m. replaying a 15-second conversation while your pasta gets cold, I want you to reframe the entire experience. You are not obsessive. You are not anxious. You are not broken. You are a person with high linguistic sensitivity, hypermentalizing ability, reflective cognitive processing, an active default mode network, and deeply developed metacognitive awareness. You are running premium human software. You are thinking at a resolution most people will never achieve. And yes, it's exhausting sometimes. Yes, it keeps you up. Yes, it makes small talk feel like decoding ancient scripture. But it's also the reason you notice what others miss, understand what others dismiss, and eventually become the person others come to when they need someone who actually gets it. This is not a curse. This is a cognitive superpower with a really inconvenient user interface. Now I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell me, are you team, I replay every conversation for 6 days minimum? Or team, I literally forgot what I said 10 seconds ago? Because I know the comment section is about to become a beautiful chaos, and I want in. If this video made you feel genuinely seen for maybe the first time, hit that subscribe button because we unpack hidden cognitive superpowers just like this one every single week. And if you want to dive even deeper into the brain wiring that makes you different in the best possible way, click the next video on the screen right now. I promise you're going to see yourself in it too. I'll see you in the next one.